now with the Banger Network Climate Change Weather Report. Here's Nerd Eye McGeek.
It's been raining on and off for the past 24 hours. We might have a break in the rain overnight, which is good because everything is wet. The temperature is normal for this time of year, so climately speaking, we're normalizing. This is Nerd Eye McGeek with your Banger Network Climate Change Weather Report.
And now over to Shady for your Banger Network Traffic Report.
Well, it's been quiet this morning. Traffic is light. Maybe people finally got the hint and stayed home during all this rain and construction. Well, except for this idiot driving by, and the guy following him, and the lady behind that, and the other 10 cars following them. Ixnay what I said. People are stupid. Back to you.
In local news, Southgate police arrived at the Ram's Horn on Ford Street. Witnesses say they were either on a coffee break or getting donuts. And the Southgate PD had no comment on the incident. You can hear the Banger Network weather, traffic, and news at the top of every hour. Now here's John. This episode of the John Lebang Show is brought to you by Banger for President 2016.
Yeah, when the two-party system leaves you feeling ill deep down, then you only have one option. Vote for none of the above, man, or else you'll get the runs.
Banger 2016.
I'm John Lebang, and I approve this message. The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Welcome, my friends, to another amazing 60 minutes of the John Lebang Show. I'm your host, John Lebang,
bringing you the finest in sonic vibrations
that free radio can buy. Cheaper than a Michigan Avenue prostitute on October 2nd. So we have an excellent hour headed your way, including special guest Derek Shelmerdine. He has a brand new book that's called Rock and Roll Unraveled, and he'll be joining us at about the 20-minute mark. A small programming note, we'll be doing a Banger Top 10 the week of October 29th. But this is a special Banger Top 10.
Halloween style.
That means songs have to have a dark theme about them. No fluff love songs, no happy dance songs, and no uplifting tunes. Strictly dark, heavy songs. Spooky, creepy, even fun Halloween songs. We'll take any of those kind of submissions. Now, the deadline is October 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern. The top 3 songs will win each band an interview right here on the John Lebang Show, plus 3 months of free commercial airtime for the number 1 song, and you'll be able to promote your new album, your single, or your website. So bands, get those tunes in. Email me your MP3s to jlebang@live.com. Your MP3s must come with a letter of consent to play your song on the show. Leave that out, we can't play it on the show. And if you got a great tune, we're really going to be bummed. So this is a great opportunity to get exposure for your band. The John Lebang Show is carried on 11 affiliates that span 25 stations. And speaking of those stations, I'd like to thank everyone who is listening in on all of the many stations that carry the John Lebang Show. From Detroit to the United Kingdom, Iowa to Chicago, New York to Canton, Ohio, Las Vegas to Tampa and Amsterdam. Greetings and salutations. So with the business out of the way, we still have a little time before our guest joins us. And as most of you know, I like to have a theme for each individual hour. So this hour we're going to focus on music. We've got the Banger Top 10, and then author Derek Shelmerdine coming in to talk about his new book, Rock and Roll Unraveled. And I happen to know a great deal about music myself. First and foremost, I know a lot about my musical experiences, my experiences in the music world, because I tried to be a rock and roll star there for a while. And since I am currently working on new material for the next chapter of my music career, some things have really been highlighted. And the thing I want to talk about right here is auditioning for bands and then auditioning musicians, because they're two sides of the same coin. And what I'm finding in the auditions that have taken place so far is that most of the musicians that have come in to audition aren't really ready to audition. We have a standard thing we're doing with this. We have made some demos of the song, the basic concepts of the song, and then we hand it to the prospective bandmate, prospective band member, the auditioner, and they have about a week to 10 days to learn 3 songs, because that's what we think we're going to record first in the studio. We used to, back in the day, it was a thing to put out a full album. And I've put out 6 albums, and I have another 7th album that's just sitting there waiting to be released. But times have changed. And it's more like the early days of rock and roll, like we're going to speak with our guest coming up. In the early days of rock and roll, it was singles that gave a band popularity, not full albums. But I digress again, as I normally do on the show. So we're in the process of auditioning musicians, and most of them are coming here and they're not prepared. And we're having to literally go through the structure and the arrangement of the song for these musicians who are auditioning for a part in the next project, in this next musical project, which will entail studio time. And if the songs turn out really well, we're going to take it on the road. And it's dragging out the auditions. Instead of an audition taking 40 minutes, an hour, to run through 3 songs, have some conversation with the fella or the lady, because there's a lot of women now playing rock music, a lot of female musicians. And since I'm the singer of the band, we're not looking for a vocalist. We're auditioning bassists and drummers. And what I've come to find out is it's best to get some kind of recording of the musician before they even show up. And then when they show up, hopefully they've done their homework. So I'd like to give out a little advice to musicians who will be possibly auditioning for bands in the near future, and for bands who are auditioning people. Because like I said earlier, it's just 2 sides of the same coin. Now, if you're auditioning for a band, there are 3 basic things you have to do. First, learn all the music at home before you get to the rehearsal, before you get to the audition. Hopefully the band has given you something to audition with and you're not going in there blind. Bands, if you're auditioning somebody, have something at the ready to give them so they can learn and be prepared for that audition. There's nothing worse than a musician that isn't prepared for an audition, except a band who gives them nothing to audition with. Now, after you learn these songs at home, if you've done your prep time, when you come to the audition, come prepared. Not just with the song, but be at the ready. Have all your chords. If you're a guitar player or a bass player, have all your chords ready. Have your equipment ready to go. Another thing that is completely annoying is when you have a guy show up for an audition, a guitar player, a bass player, or even a drummer, doesn't matter, and their equipment isn't working. And when you guy that isn't prepared and then their equipment isn't working, this isn't going well. By that point, I'm trying to figure a way to shorten the audition up to send you on your merry way. The third thing, as the person auditioning for the band, be yourself. Don't try to put up a front. Don't try to act cool. Don't do anything but be yourself. These people need to know your true personality so they can see if they can mesh with you. A band has already got this chemistry going, and they need a piece to be able to fit in there and help the chemistry, not hurt the chemistry. I was recently in a band, tribute band, that we brought in a bass player. And the chemistry wasn't good between the bass player and I. And I ended up leaving the band, even though it was my idea to put this thing back together. You have to have personalities that work well with each other. That way you can develop good chemistry. Now, bands, when you're auditioning guys, this, you want to make sure you give them music for them to learn. So, and give them some time to learn it. Don't just go, hey, be at our place at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. Bring your gear and come on audition. Let the person have some time to learn 2 or 3 or 4 songs, whatever you determine. And that's another thing, bands, if you're auditioning people, you don't want to overload them and give them 20 songs. You want to give them enough songs to see the range of music they can play, but you don't want to go on forever. When you're auditioning, the best thing is to bring in people and just run through these people, knock them out. My opinion. Now, when these guys show up, band, first thing you should look at is, did they learn the songs? If you gave them songs to learn, did they learn it? If they're coming there and they're asking you this and that and the other thing, hey, I didn't this and I didn't that, and you know what, I was too busy for this. That dude is going to do that when he's in your band, and rehearsal is going to turn into practice. And practice is something you should do at home, not at rehearsal with the band. You learn the song on your own, you get yourself all ready on your own. When you come to rehearsal, you're ready to go. Because if you're throwing off everybody else because you're not playing it right, it's hurting all the members in the band. And that can really slow a band's progress down. So did they learn the songs? Are they prepared? Did they have crappy equipment when they showed up? Was a string broke on the guitar and they had to change the string while you were waiting for them? Those are important things. If you're getting a guy that's showing up and either nothing's working or they didn't prepare themselves by having that string replaced that they broke the other night, you probably don't want the guy in your band. You also got to worry about, do the personalities mesh? So everybody in the band has to act normal, just like they would normally act if the band was together, not any different than when somebody new is there. If you want to put in an air of professionalism, that's fine. But if you have a joker in your band and he's going to be a joker all the time, let him joke around at the rehearsal, at the audition. That'll loosen up the person who's auditioning, most likely, and you might end up having a better audition overall. And finally, most importantly, do they fit the style that you're playing? If you're a heavy metal band and a guy says, oh, I love heavy metal, I've only been playing rock, and I've never played double kick drum before, double bass, I've never played that. He's probably not prepared as a musician for your style. Make sure the guy has the same musical backgrounds and make sure the styles are similar. Before you even get to the audition, before you even bring them in for the audition, it's best that you get these people figured out before you show up and waste anybody's time. Because that's the worst thing about being a musician and really caring about what you're doing, is when you deal with the people, when you deal with other musicians, and when the majority of them aren't prepared, they are wasting your time. And time, to a lot of us, is money. And if the guy's going to come unprepared for his audition, he's going to come unprepared for practice, and he's going to come unprepared for the studio. And if there's one place that you have to be fully prepared for, is the studio. You don't want to spend extra hours trying to work out little licks and little details to the song that you could have done at home for free, because most studios are a little bit more than 40 or 50 bucks an hour. So that's that. My little advice for bands and artists who are either auditioning or being auditioned, who are either auditioning for or auditioning musicians. Let me know what you think in the comments section or the chat room. We've got to take a quick break, folks, and when we return, our guest, Derek Shelmerdine, and we're going to talk about his book, Rock and Roll Unraveled. You don't want to miss it.
Don't touch that dial. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
You can bet on it, man.
And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Top 10 Artists 23 EXP releases their 11-song debut album, Welcome, featuring songs like Siren, This album is guaranteed to satisfy your hunger with songs like Food. Welcome by 23EXP is available right now at CD Baby, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, and wherever music is sold. And yes, this album includes the number one song, Stand Up. Welcome by 23EXP. Get it today. The monster that's inside.
Hello. Not a lot of people know, but after my 12th child, I had a hard time getting it up. No matter how hard my wife and I tried, we couldn't get my little Willie to perform correctly. So after minutes and minutes of trying, she looked at me and said, "Honey, bless your heart, you might have an erectile dysfunction. You should call the Pen 15 Club. They can help." And you know, she was right. They provided me with hours of help, from many kinds of massage techniques to fantastic oral support. The Pen 15 Club did the right trick for me, and I know it will for you too. So if you're tired of having a limp biscuit and want some help, contact the Pen 15 Club. They can help you. The following advertisement is paid for Banger for President 2016.
Hillary Clinton, she's ugly. And do you really want to hear this for the next 4 years?
What difference at this point does it make?
Or this? Or even this? I don't think so.
So do the right thing.
Vote for none of the above, man.
Or else you get this.
The world must understand that the United States will act decisively if necessary, including with military action.
Banger 2016.
I'm John Lebang, and I approve this message. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's what's cool on radio.
Leroy, turn on the radio. John's supposed to have some guy on that's going to talk about the good old days of rock and roll.
You mean like AC/DC, Uncle Shady?
No, I'm talking way back.
That's an awfully long time. You're almost 50 years old, Uncle Shady.
Now, don't exaggerate it now. I'm 47 3/4 years old to be semi-accurate.
Semi-accurate, Uncle Shady.
Don't you mean close enough? Haven't you heard that saying? Close enough only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes?
Oh, I never heard that before, Uncle Shady.
Well, now you have two things going for you.
What's that, Uncle Shady?
You're deaf and dumb.
Well, I'll turn it on for you, Uncle Shady, but I think I'm going to go work on the Androbot.
Well, you're going to miss learning something.
And what's that, Uncle Shady?
Where real music came from.
Hey, man, did you turn it on yet, man?
Leroy was just about to.
Oh, far out, man. Let me grab my bong, man.
See, even the stoner is interested.
Well, I don't think I know any of the bands he's going to talk about, Uncle Shady.
Are you kidding me? He's going to talk about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, Chuck Berry, and the King.
Oh, you mean the guy that makes the hamburgers, Uncle Shady?
No, that's the Colonel. I'm talking about Elvis Presley.
Oh, that's the short guy who makes the cookies in the tree.
No, he's the guy who sang Hound Dog.
Oh, I thought his name was Oscar Mayer, Uncle Shady.
Not Hot Dog, Hound Dog. And he also sang Jailhouse Rock.
Oh, I know that song, Uncle Shady.
See, I told you.
I sing that every Christmas, Uncle Shady.
Are you sure you're related to me?
Why do you say that, Uncle Shady?
Because you're stupid. Now turn on the radio.
Oh, man, I got my bong, man. Okay, Uncle Shady.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Join the radio revolution right here.
It's better than some good Thai stick, man.
Yes, I would like some too.
All right, welcome back, folks. So while I was on my little summer vacation a few months back, I received an abridged copy of a book called Rock and Roll Unraveled. And I began to thumb through the book, and what I found was a treasure of information on the roots and history of rock and roll. And this hour, we are lucky to have the author of Rock and Roll Unraveled, Mr. Derek Shelmerdine.
Oh, hi, it's great to be with you, John.
So how's life in cheery old England?
It's pretty good. We've had some great weather. We British like to talk about the weather. The book's going well. I just put it into two more bookshops a couple of days ago. So all in all, life's all going very well at the moment.
So let's talk about the book. Give us an overview.
Well, what it is, it's quite a large one. It's 700 pages of rock and roll history, basically. It tells a story of rock and roll from its roots back in the blues and before, up till punk rock in the mid-1970s. And as well as telling the story of the music, it also looks at the social events that were going on at the time, things like the Vietnam War, the civil rights struggle, and it very much looks to pick up effectively on all of the highlights from the period.
I thought you did a wonderful job, not only chronologically listing all the events, but the book catalogs not only the music of the time, but the social and geopolitical happenings. The information is comprehensive, yet easy to read. So how long did it take you to do the research for this book?
It's over 7 years. I mean, it's a real labor of love. I mean, you're right. I mean, the book's divided into 3 parts. It's not one of these start at the beginning, tell the story, finish at the end kind of books. What it is, it's uniquely presented basically in 3 parts. The center part is the it happened today. So what I look at is all of the key things that happened on each day of the year. So January the 1st through December the 31st. Then part 1 puts that all into context by taking every one of those items and listing them chronologically. So that gives a lot of context to what's going on. And the third part is what I call the pocket histories. So it's a lot more than an index. What it does, it picks up all of the references to artists, bands, events like the Vietnam War, and then it lists them. So for a major act like the Beatles, I mean, there are literally hundreds of references. So for the major bands like the Beatles, Stones, Zeppelin, Doors, it turns into a reasonably comprehensive biography of, picks up all the key things that these guys were doing across their careers. And for those sort of major bands, I also add in how they came together. So the various bands that they were in before they became the Who, or before they became the Beatles.
And the book ties all that together, including the events of that period.
I wrote it basically because it's a book I've always wanted to read. I've always been fascinated by what was going on in the general sense of what was happening. Like, what was happening elsewhere when the Beatles released their first single in the UK was "Love Me Do," and that was released in October 1962. And the timeline then gives you the opportunity to go to that particular release date and have a look at what was going on. And as well as things like a One Brother Everly Brothers tour a week or so later. Don was taken ill and went back to America. The Cuban Missile Crisis was just getting ahead of steam. So when the Beatles released "Love Me Do" in the UK in October '62, we were about 3 weeks away from potentially the Third World War.
And what I found, it's all easy to find. For a history buff like myself, the first thing I did was go to the year I was born. I wanted to see if anything important happened on my birthday. Of course it didn't, story of my life. But the format of the book had everything listed nicely. The timeline order was easily read, and that's coming from a guy who can barely see at the age of 47. Reading the order of the events, a song would be released, then some major news story would happen. And the book does a great job keeping things simple for the reader.
Oh, thanks very much, mate. I mean, that's very much what I was hoping. What I've done with the events, it covers all kinds of things like major gigs, releases, recording sessions, strange things that happened, things like Led Zeppelin's famous mud shark incidents. It covers a whole bunch of things. I look at things like failed auditions, when people like Keith Moon failed to get into particular bands because the audition didn't quite go his way. And the whole thing, really, looking for a reaction as well of, wow, I didn't know that, which is usually something that happens because there's an awful lot of detail in there as well.
Time for a break, folks. We've got to pay some bills. At the bottom of the hour, we'll continue our conversation with author Derek Shelmerdine about his book, Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Where do you think you're going?
Hey, man, don't go anywhere, man. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
Are you crazy?
Powerful, epic music by Toothbox Row. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
Are you looking to bring the karaoke experience to your next event? Have you looked at the home karaoke systems and found them to be just toys? Well, Alien Stone Entertainment Karaoke has professional equipment, professional sound, and delivers a professional karaoke experience. Don't settle for hundreds of songs when you can have tens of thousands. From oldies, Motown, and R&B to rock, metal, alternative, rap, and country, Alien Stone Entertainment Karaoke has it all. Alien Stone Entertainment Karaoke is available for private parties as well as bars, clubs, and other special events. For booking, call 734-658-2746. That's 734-658-2746. Or visit us online at www.alienstoneentertainment.com. Alien Stone Entertainment. Out of this world karaoke, down to earth prices.
And allow me to do a little bit of self-promotion. If you like what you're listening to here on the John Lebang Show and you would like to find out more about what I'm all about, what this show's about, and what I do, then you can go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, there's one quick and easy way. That's contact us through email at jlebang@live.com. Now, if you like videos and you want to check out what we do on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/LebangYourHead.
or you can find us by typing in Banger Incorporated.
Now, if you do the Twitter thing, we also do the Twitter thing. So follow us on Twitter at The John Lebang Show. And when talking about us, use the hashtag banger. And finally, if you're doing the Facebook thing, and we do the Facebook thing, so come hang out with us on Mark Zuckerberg's Cash Cow. Look us up at The John Lebang Show and like that page. This half hour is brought to you by FantasyPuckheads.com. The season is about to begin. Keep up with all of your fantasy hockey news at FantasyPuckheads.com.
Did you know you can exercise often but undo your efforts with unhealthy eating habits? I'm Coach Drea, and I would love to help you reach your health and fitness goals, all from the privacy of your own home. My next health and fitness challenge starts soon. You get accountability, motivation, one-on-one support from me, meal planning, fitness program, 30 days of Shakeology, and more. Contact me at CoachDrea.com. That's CoachDrea.com or Facebook.com/CoachDrea. What do you have to lose?
Captain, I'm picking up a strange anomaly.
Mr. Tukok, what is it? It appears to be a primitive form of communication that is traveling through space, Captain.
Captain, I traced the source of the transmission.
On screen. Damn it, Jim, that's Earth.
Captain, a signal's coming in.
On speaker. The John Lebang Show is on every Saturday and Sunday at 8 p.m. right here on Alien X Radio.
Fascinating. I told you not to mess with the space-time continuum.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Forces of darkness, the treasonable Mayans who collaborate, must, can, and will be wiped from the face of the earth.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We continue our conversation with author Derek Shelmerdine about his book Rock and Roll Unraveled. When we left, you were commenting that during your research you had a few wow moments. What were some of the biggest wow moments?
Oh, that's a difficult one. There were a few. I got into a lot of different things. I mean, I didn't know that Mitch Mitchell, the drummer with Jimi Hendrix Experience, I didn't know he'd actually failed an audition to become the Who's drummer. So there's various things. I didn't actually realise that Robert Johnson only ever made 2 recording sessions. He cut all of the singles that he ever recorded back in the 30s in 2 separate recording sessions. So there was quite a lot. I discovered a lot of really good music, like the single that's generally considered to be the first rock and roll single, Jackie Branston's Rocket 88. I didn't know the story that when they were driving to Sun Studios to record it, apparently the guys were in a car and the speaker apparently fell off the car and it damaged it slightly, which gives the famous fuzz response when they actually recorded it. The other thing about that as well is, rather sadly, Pete Best is remembered as the man who didn't make the Beatles. Ike Turner could be remembered as the man who didn't release the first rock and roll single, because he'd actually arranged a recording session with Phillips at Sun, and they recorded 4 songs, 2 of which Ike Turner took lead vocals on, and 2 of which Jackie Branston took lead vocals on, and they released the 2 Ike Turner vocal leads as his, and the other is Jackie Branston, but it was actually the same band. So really it should be Rocket 88 by Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm that was considered to be the first rock and roll record. But hey, that's history, I guess.
And history is written by whoever is writing it.
Exactly. Written by the victor, mate. Written by the victor.
So the book comes in 3 parts. Let's break them down.
Well, the first part, because it looks chronologically, It not only helps to give you a flavour of what was going on. You can look at a particular date there, any particular date, and have a look at what else was going on. But what it also does, it also means that you can see careers and genres waxing and waning. For instance, you can see the original golden era of American rock and roll finish around 1959. It started, the beginning of the end came with Little Richard when he was on tour in Australia, found God and renounced rock and roll. And then the following year, Jerry Lee Lewis was over for his first UK tour, and when he was being interviewed and asked who the young lady was with him, explained it was his wife. And when it was discovered that she was the 13-year-old daughter of his bass-playing cousin, the British press took a fairly dim view of this. The British fans took a very dim view, and he had to abandon his that tour. After 3 gigs, he went back to America. But his American fans abandoned him as well. To all intents and purposes, well, it was the end of Jerry Lee Lewis's rock and roll career. I mean, he reinvented himself as a very successful country artist, and he is a phenomenal artist. But that was the end of his rock and roll days. Elvis went into the army, and he was well out of the picture. And when he came back, of course, he reinvented himself as a 1960s matinee idol. And Buddy Holly died in a plane crash. And that all happened within about 18 months towards the end of the 50s. And then you can see that there's a sort of no man's land period, really. What was happening in the UK was that rock and roll here was a very pale imitation, mostly covers of American rock and roll. It had morphed from skiffle over here. But the beat groups, you can see the beat groups starting around 1960. When they were the first British groups to play in Hamburg, where the Beatles became famous, or just before the Beatles became famous. That all started about 1960, and in America you had a splitting off of different music genres. You had surf music came up, Phil Spector came up, bunch of dance crazes, probably led by Chubby Checker's cover of the Twist, and then you get to 1962. The UK, the Beatles took off, and then 1964 they cracked it in America, and then you can see how the genres all changed and how America had dominated very much the 1950s from the second half. Well, for a couple of years, 64 to 66, the British invasion meant that the British bands were very, very much dominating in America. Even, I mean, people like the Byrds were calling themselves the Beefeaters at the time, try and sound more English. And that first part helps you to see that. And then the second part, the diary. The first thing people do is exactly what you just said. People look at what happened on my birthday. Oh, that record was released. That particular band played that gig. Wow, Woodstock opened. So that's great. And then the third part is very much there to pull it all together and to say, well, wow, what else did the Beatles? What else? You talked a lot about the Beatles. What else were the Rolling Stones doing? And then you can go and have a look at all of the references to the Rolling Stones, and sometimes it's about them, or maybe sometimes it's simply because they were involved in something else. And what I've done as well in the third part, I've added information about where people went to, which bands people came from when they joined a band, which bands people went to when they left a band. So what I've done is that the main bulk of the information, if you like, is in part 2, the January to December. But both part 1 and part 3 actually add the information. They're not just indexes, basically.
Now, where can we find out more information?
Well, a really good place to start is my website, which is rockandrollunraveled.com. So that's just rockandrollunraveled.com.
And how can people purchase the book?
It can be bought on Amazon.com.
How much is it?
Some people buy it on Amazon UK because I think it's because of the exchange rates and things. It's probably, I don't know exactly, but $1 or $2 probably cheaper to buy it on Amazon UK. It all gets shipped from the UK, and the price is all very controlled on the shipping.
Now, is it available in bookstores in the United States?
I'm not sure if it's available in bookshops yet in the States. But it's available in the UK via major distributors, and some of those distributors actually are distributors for the States. So probably the best place to start is the website, or Amazon. Go straight to Amazon. It's certainly available on Amazon.com and Amazon UK.
We can find you on Facebook.
Absolutely, yeah. Facebook. Again, it's at Rock and Roll Unraveled, and Twitter as well. I do a lot of work on both, but I do an awful lot of stuff on Twitter. Some of it taken from the book, and also a lot of other things around that. And the Twitter is RNR Unraveled, so at RNR Unraveled. They didn't have enough characters for the whole thing.
And on your Facebook page, you do This Day in History, which is a great way to educate people on the history of rock and roll. I'd like to encourage everybody to go to your Facebook page and like that page, and maybe that'll also help encourage some sales for the book.
Absolutely.
Now, are you planning on writing more books in the future? Possibly taking Rock and Roll Unraveled into the 80s, 90s, or right up into the present?
What I'll probably do is that there will almost certainly be more books, but what I'll be doing is expanding on the era of this particular book and do things like Rolling Stones Unraveled, or a genre, doo-wop Unraveled, prog rock Unraveled, Eric Clapton Unraveled, where somebody's got an interesting story. I mean, Clapton's got a great story because he was in so many different bands, and in the book there's a lot about Clapton and the different bands he was in, Yardbirds, Derek and the Dominoes and the like, and the solo career. But what would be great is to use exactly the same kind of format, so it takes his story on a very factual day-by-day basis, because what I like is I'm doing serious research in terms of key events, a lot of cross-referencing, because an awful lot of information on the internet is not quite as accurate as it might be, but there's some great websites out there, and then building a story up across the key events in somebody's life. So whereas in the book there's probably, I don't know, 30, 40 maybe items associated with Clapton, you do 200 then. You do the story of his life, basically. But instead of just like yet another Clapton biography, it would be based around the concept of doing the dates and then pulling those together in a chronology, and doing a potted history which expands on what the things that were going on around him, as it were, the way the original Rock and Roll Unraveled book does.
Yes, I think a lot of people would be interested in Eric Clapton's musical chairs in terms of his rock and roll history.
Absolutely. Clapton's got a really interesting story because, in true rock and roll fashion, he disappeared into the wilderness for a couple of years while he got his head together. So, he is like a butt of rock. If you cut him through in the middle, he'd have rock and roll hero stamped right round him.
Well, Derek, it's been a pleasure having you on.
My pleasure. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Do you have any last thoughts before we go?
If people check out the Facebook, they'll find good things happening on a daily basis.
Derek Shelmerdine, author of the book Rock and Roll Unraveled. You can find out more information about the book by going to his website, rockandrollunraveled.com. Thank you, Derek.
Thanks a lot, John. Really enjoyed it. Cheers.
We got to hit a quick break, folks. More on the flip side, including your favorite cool or uncool.
Don't touch that dial. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
You can bet on it, man.
Fans, do you need a video for your brand new song but don't have a lot of money? Then contact John Lebang. His reasonable rates, professional look, and fast turnarounds will help get that song off the ground. Contact him at jlebang.com.
Hello, ladies. Do you sometimes need a man to fix your plumbing needs, but you don't want the hassle of having your own husband? Well then, just call us here at Hubby for Hire. We'll have our trained professionals over to your house to hammer, fix, or lebang whatever project you need fixing. And we give special rates to single mothers with good oral skills. So remember, you don't need to be married to have your needs fulfilled. Just call a Hubby for Hire. We can fix anything. Yes?
The following advertisement is paid for Banger for President 2016.
Donald Trump. He wants single-payer health care.
Everybody's got to be covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford private. But everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now.
He's even said he's a Democrat.
In many cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat.
So why the hell is he running as a Republican?
Makes you scratch your head.
Oh, I'm confused, man. So when both parties are on the left,
then do the right thing.
Vote for none of the above, man. Because what difference does it make anyways? We're all screwed.
Banger 2016.
I'm John Lebang, and I approve this message.
If you want to call into the John Lebang Show, just dial 313-444-8919 or send us an email at jlebang@live.com, or you can just join the chat room at the station you're listening to. Banger.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final few minutes before we get to Cool or Uncool. And since the focus of this hour has been around music, we've covered a great deal of things. One thing we haven't covered tonight that we have covered a lot in 2016 is the epic story of AC/DC's Rocker Bus Tour. The ups and downs and all arounds of this great rock band who faced some incredible adversity here in the last few years. The loss of Malcolm Young to dementia, replacing him with Stevie Young. Then Phil Rudd decides to be a complete idiot, and he goes crazy, and the authorities down in New Zealand decide to do something about it, and he wasn't able to join AC/DC on the Rocker Bus Tour. So then AC/DC replaces him for the tour with Chris Slade, a guy they had in the band for a little while in the 90s. So the tour was happening, and they were doing their little Rocker Bus Tour. And early in 2016, news comes out that the singer, Brian Johnson, is experiencing some major hearing loss, and he will have to leave the group, at least temporarily, until he can give his ears time to fix themselves, or they can find a way for him to continue. So they go on this little hiatus as they probably trying to figure out what they're going to do. At least that's what the fans thought. They thought, okay, it's probably over. If Brian can't sing and they can't find some kind of reasonable way to get his hearing back or to aid his hearing, then they're going to probably be done. But then we start hearing rumors that they're going to be auditioning singers. And they were down in Atlanta. And the big rumor that came out was Axl Rose was auditioning for AC/DC. He wanted to sing for AC/DC. And the fans started going, what? Axl Rose? Oh my God, no. There's just no way AC/DC is going to have Axl Rose in the band. No way, no, it's impossible. Well, the rumors started becoming news stories. And the news stories started showing pictures of Axl Rose at the rehearsal studio. And then we found out, oh my goodness, Axl Rose is singing for AC/DC. And the fans were then starting to freak out, just like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Just call it not Axl Rose, please, not Axl Rose. Then more rumors started coming out. And Jim Brewer comes out on the radio and starts talking about how Brian Johnson might have been canned from AC/DC. And there was speculation for months and months and months. Now the tour is going. Axl Rose is singing for AC/DC with one leg because his leg was broken. But he's singing for AC/DC, and the people that are going to see this concert with the AC/DC band with Axl Rose and two other new guys, and people weren't having much of a problem with it because Axl Rose was singing it okay. He sounded like Axl Rose singing AC/DC. And I never thought Axl Rose was a bad singer. It was just the image of Axl Rose and AC/DC. And the tour is going for about a week or two, and all of a sudden we hear that Brian Johnson has now found some technology that he can put in his ear and he'll be able to sing with the band. And in all the test runs, he was hearing music like he hadn't heard it in years, and this was such a great positive sign. But AC/DC continued to tour with Axl Rose, continued to bring in the money. Rave reviews, Axl singing great with AC/DC. I watched the videos. Axl sounded great singing like Axl Rose, singing AC/DC songs. But after seeing them 26 times, when they came back around the last time, I didn't want to go. Well, about 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks before the end of the tour, we start hearing that Cliff Williams, the bass player, was now leaving AC/DC after the end of the tour. Why? Because in his own words, it was a different animal. In other words, it wasn't AC/DC anymore. All the fans that were arguing with the fans who were upset over this move with Axl Rose and the band, all those fans that were cheering on Axl and fighting with the fans who didn't like the move. In the end, Cliff Williams sides with the fans who didn't like the move. And because of that, he is leaving AC/DC. And now, here we stand. Angus Young, the end of the tour. What does he do with AC/DC? At the beginning of the year, I predicted that AC/DC would retire this year. And Cliff Williams announces that he was going to retire from the band right around the date that I had said the entire band was going to retire. But we can't call it retired yet because Angus hasn't officially said he's going to retire. And I don't want him to retire. He doesn't have to retire. He could go on as Angus DC or something like that, and I would be perfectly happy, and I would go see him. But if he's going to try to carry on the band with Axl Rose as the singer, Stevie Young as the guitar player, Chris Slade as the drummer, some other new guy at the bass, and call it AC/DC, I know what they look like, what they sound like, and I know the show. But after all this, do you think Angus Young should retire? Should he continue on as AC/DC? Or should he just do his own thing away from AC/DC? Let me know in the comments section or the chat room. I think they should hang up AC/DC. The Rock or Bust tour, that's a good way to end it. In fact, they might have gone one album too long. But I'm not going to complain because the album Rock or Bust is pretty decent, including the last 4 songs. They're great. Those last 4 songs, they're as good as anything else AC/DC put out in the prior 15-20 years. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section or the chat room. Hey Joan, are you ready yet? Ready, willing, and able, Shady? You know, that sounds kinda gay. Sorry about that. Well, I'll forgive you this time, but don't do it again. No worries. So that was a really cool interview you had earlier. Thanks, Shady. I thought so. You might want to have more people like him on your show. Well, that falls into this hour's Cool or Uncool. Good old-fashioned rock and roll music. Now, you can email your responses to jlebang@live.com, or you can go to the chat room and let us know there. And you can also call in at 313-444-8919. And speaking of calling in, the first one comes from London, where he's listening to us on WRFN 1025. Henry, cool or uncool?
I think it's bloody cool. The Beatles are one of my favorite bands.
Really? What's your favorite song?
Well, the whole Revolver album was excellent, but Taxman is my favorite.
Okay, thanks for your call. That's one for cool. You know, I think that guy works for the IRS. Our next call comes from Dearborn, Michigan, where he's listening to us on Alien X Radio. Anonymous, you're up.
Hello, John. I just love that rock and roll music, just like the Rolling Stones. It really makes me want to sing Jumping Jack Flash into gas.
on a second.
Well, we're on the radio.
It'll just be a second. Can someone take him somewhere and do something with him?
Come on.
Yeah, come on. Oh, sorry about that. Listen, since I'm on the phone, I think it's cool too. I've always loved Elvis Presley and all his shiny outfits. You know, there's the reason they called him the king. Oh, you know, I better get off. I'm having hot flashes. Bye.
Okay, thanks for your call. So do we count that as 2 cools or 1? Well, normally I would say 1, but since the topic is so cool, I'll let it slide. Sounds good. Barry from DC writes in an email, uncool. He's a fan of Jay-Z and Beyonce. Yeah, and I bet he's friends with them too. Tampa, Florida, where she's listening in on Raw Talk Radio Online. Cora, cool or uncool?
I knew a girl who was married to Gary Lee Lewis. She was my sister, but he really wanted to date me. But my mother said I was too young.
Well, how old were you?
I was 4.
Okay, thanks for your call. Didn't he marry his cousin or something? I believe so. There's some strange people out there. Now, is anyone saying anything in the chat room? Well, guest says it's cool. All right then, over to Montreal, Canada. Wilfred, cool or uncool?
Tells that lady from Florida to go to the hell.
Okay, thanks for your call. What's the score, Shady? Well, I don't know. I haven't been keeping track. Well, I think the Cools won tonight. I know the Cools won tonight. Are we done yet? Yep. Well, then play a song then. Your wish is my command. Now that's twice you sounded gay tonight. This will teach you to think before you speak. Ladies and gentlemen, John is indisposed right now. So here's a song until he gets back. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for yet another hour of
The John Lebang Show.
I'd like to thank my guest this hour, author Derek Shelmerdine. You can find his book at his website at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. A big shout out to all my affiliate stations. Don't forget to go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. Thank you all for listening, and until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, this is John Lebang, IL, signing off.
Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station. Resistance is futile.
Well, how's the Androbot coming?
Well, we're making some kind of progress.
What does that mean?
It means I at least have a name for it now.
Oh, really? What are you going to call it?
I'm going to name it after my phone.
After your phone?
Well, it keeps calling me. I'm going to name the Androbot eye dork.
That sounds like something Apple would make.
Well, this one's more like a peach.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know, it just sounded good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's try to turn it on.
I dork initiated.
Oh, rats. Must be that time of the month.
I think that's TMI.
Back to the drawing board.